Hi there everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Pearblossom press video. Today we're going to be doing a double interactive and I want to use a one light. I haven't done one of these pop-ups with a light on it, but I know that it's actually pretty simple, so we're going to do it. And I've brought in some Pearblossom press. This is the translucent colors vellum, and we're going to be using some blue. I've got some Lawn Fawn products. We've got our Fly High stamps and dies. Those are so cute and they're going to go really well with our pop-up. And this is the Lawn Fawn platform pop-up. And we're going to combine that with our platform pop-up cloud inserts and our cloud wraparound. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be a fairly long video, but I do want to show you how we're going to put this together. I've doubled the speed. We did die cut out two of those main pieces and two of these T pieces. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to fold in on all of those score lines. Fold in on both of them. So I'll do this first one and then you can watch me do the second one also, just to make sure that you know what we're doing. But yeah, fold in on all of those score lines because we want to make a box. And it's got a few score lines here. You see that there's a hole or an opening there. That's where our T is going to end up going through. But let's go ahead and do the other one also, folding everything in to eventually form the other side of the box. These little platform pop-ups have been such a hit in my craft room. I've made several of them, and then when I have friends come over that want to buy or customers that want to buy stuff, these ones always go very quickly, just simply because they're such a unique style. All right, with the T, we're going to fold in on the bottom as well. There's a score line there. And then we're going to take this 1/4 inch rip and stick tape. I'm going to put some on this flap on both of those boxes or both of those sides, and then we're going to put some on this T on the bottom flap. We're going to stick the T in there, and the tape has to be pointed down, so we want to make sure that that is nice and tight. And we're going to peel off the release paper as I've folded that down, and then we're going to fold everything down again all the way to that last score line for the bottom of the box, and then peel off the rip and stick, and there you have the first portion of the box. So let's do it again to the other side. Put a little rip and stick on the bottom of that T. Fold in on that first big score line. Take off the release paper, fold the T down, and then do the same thing with the flap. All right, so we have both of our sides. Those are going to be ready to adhere together here in a second. But I've gone ahead and die cut out this cloud. That one comes from our cloud insert. And I'm just going to tell you right now, the paper that I used is fairly thin. And because we're going to add a light to this, I don't realize until later that I should have probably die cut out a few more. I'll fix the problem. It's not a big deal, but just telling you that if you do want to make one of these and you want to use a one light and you want to just glue it to there, you're going to need to die cut out probably, I would say 2 or 3, depending on, or 3 or 4 2 or 3 extras of these depending on the thickness of your cardstock. And like I said, my white cardstock isn't super thick, so I will show you that later on. I did bring in some waffle flour, or this is a waffle flour blending tool of some sort. I just had it in my stash. And I brought in some Simon Hurley Create. This is the Stellar inks, and this one's called High Tide. I just thought that was such a pretty cloud color. And I decided to use this little tool because I wanted to get into some of those smaller areas. All right, happy with that. So I'm going to bring in that, as you can see on that platform pop-up cloud insert, there's that smaller die that's a cloud, and so I'm going to go ahead and die cut that out twice, and then we'll do the same thing with the inks on those. I've also die cut out the cloud wraparound, and you do that twice, and so I'm bringing in a blending buddy and I'm going to blend that High Tide down into the cloud. I really like how that looks, so we're going to do it also on these smaller ones, just to kind of blend that out a little bit more, and then I'll do it again on the other one that I die cut out, bringing that color down. It's a little darker on the end. I really like that. And then we'll just take whatever's left on our blending buddy and kind of blend that onto the clouds. That way that color's blended even a little bit more. All right, so this is where you're going to attach down your cloud insert. And like I said, I'm going to fix it later, but you're going to want to have at least probably 3 to 4 layers of the cloud, depending on how thick your cardstock is. So I'll put that down. I did use some more Rip and Stick, trying to just center that up in the middle. That is on there. So now we're going to add some more Rip and Stick tape to this flap on the side of our box. And then we can line that up and attach that to the other portion of the box. Pardon my head. And then we'll add some Rip and Stick tape to this one. We won't attach that one just yet. We're going to attach the center first. So I'll add 2 strips of the Rip and Stick to that. And then we'll peel off that release paper and we'll bring it over to the other part of the platform. Pretty simple. You just have to, maybe save this video if you end up getting this platform die. I'm telling you, this might be one of my favorite kind of cards to make because it's always a favorite for my customers for sure. All right, and then it just pops up. How cute is that? I love it so much. Yes. All right, so now I'm going to attach these clouds to those little T portions that we attached on the inside. That just adds a little extra. And then you can attach little things, little critters or whatnot to those as well. Yep, front and back. The back one's not quite as important when you have the cloud insert, but I think it's super cute, so we're going to leave it in there. And then we're going to go ahead and attach the wraparound. So the best way to do this is to attach some Rip and Stick to the one side. These clouds are very easy to line up. It basically just makes that cloud one big cloud. And then we're going to do it on the other side as well. The easiest way is to take your whole platform box and then put it inside the wraparound, if that makes any sense. I'm going to show you. We've gone ahead and made sure that all of our lines are scored and folded in. And then we're going to use some double-sided adhesive. I'm not going to use the Rip and Stick because that would be, if it gets attached, it's not quite as easy to pull off, but this Tombow mono adhesive is. So I'm going to stick this inside our wraparound and just kind of push it down until it hits our fingers, and then we'll just push everything into place, and that's all you need to do. And take a look at that. You've got this really fun little cloud wraparound. It just looks like this whole little sky scene. How cute. Love it. All right, so now we're going to work on our stamping. The stamping, I screwed up a couple times. Well, I didn't screw it up. The one piece I did, there was like an extra little chunk of the leftover stamp. And so I'm going to re-stamp that later, but I'm going to go ahead and color my little mouse. And I'm going dark to light here. And I'm going to try and color the bottoms of my, you'll see. Yeah, tried to color the bottom of my air balloon. And I noticed while I was coloring my mouse that my tip was getting really wet. And so that's one of the things with these Olos is that you do kind of have to pay attention while you're coloring. If your tip gets really wet, that means it's about to drip. And I'm going to be honest with you, I would rather have an extra juicy marker than I would a dry marker because that's just a personal thing. I would just rather have a little bit extra. So you do have to pay attention, especially when you're coloring the smaller images. It doesn't happen so much when you're coloring the bigger images, but it definitely can happen when you're coloring those smaller images. So just pay attention to your tip while you're coloring. If it starts to get really wet looking and juicy looking, that means it's about to drop some color. So just keep a cloth nearby. If you see it happening, wipe that onto your cloth and that should take care of the problem. So yeah, you saw I did color some extra or stamp some extra pieces, and we're going to go ahead and color those. As you can see, I've quadrupled my speed here because otherwise we'd be here for days watching me do this. As you notice, I didn't color in that one portion, and that was because I want to cut it out, as you can see. So I'm cutting that out right along that black line because that's where our light is going to show through. And if you don't like that the stark whiteness of where you've cut, just use like a black marker to color the edges. Got an extra piece of white cardstock, and I'm just going to color that up with that High Tide ink, leaving some of it a little bit lighter at the bottom. Did that intentionally because we are going to stamp our sentiments onto that. So our sentiments say flying by to say, and then the other one just says happy birthday, or have a happy birthday, or it's your birthday. That's what it says. It's your birthday. And then I'll just trim those down and we'll set those off to the side. We'll use our matching dies to tack down our matching dies using a little bit of mint tape, run that through our die cutting machine, and then we're going to be ready to start using the light. So here's our one light, super easy to put together. Just stick the battery in there and it's good to go. You can see I do have some of that translucent colored vellum, and I've actually folded it in half because I do want 2 of those, and I figured the best way to attach this to the back was just to die cut 2 of those out using our balloon die. So I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue on the edge, and we'll tack one of those balloons down, and then we'll do it again. So it's just a double thickness. That just kind of subdues, or at least that way you can't see the mechanism quite as much. I need to stamp push on our hot air balloon, so I'm bringing in the Pearblossom press stamp set, and I've used an anti-static powder tool on the balloon. We're going to bring in some clear ink. It's just a juicy embossing ink, and I will stamp the word push down up on the upper left-hand corner. We'll dip that into our very white, or it's very detailed white embossing powder, and then we're just going to heat set that until that is smooth and melted. And it just says push. So that way our recipient knows to push there. All right, I'm going to tack down my one light to the inside of our balloon just using some liquid glue. And then I've got some of the world's best foam tape that I am putting down in a couple of areas. I will need a little bit more on that one side where the battery is, because otherwise it's not sticking. And so I'll just trim this one down and put that on there. We'll peel off all the release paper on those, and then we can tack our balloon down. That was just a white piece of cardstock that I die cut the balloon shape out of. Check it out, we have this 3D balloon. And so here's where I want to attach it, and this is where I'm realizing that might be a little bit heavy. So we're going to use a little bit of liquid glue and attach it down to our clouds where it's going to cover, and you'll see it's going to flop over. Just too heavy for those thin clouds. So this is where I was like, whoops. All right, we can fix this. I'm going to bring in some extra die cuts, and I didn't die cut out the whole portion at the bottom, so I've got just a bit of it that's going to stick inside, and I'll glue 3 of those together. And I thought maybe I could just peel back where my cloud was attached in there, but it turns out I couldn't. So the next best thing I did was bring in an X-Acto knife to just very carefully pull the cardstock away from the cloud that's already there. I know I'm kind of off screen here, but just making sure that I can stick that in there. And when I finally get enough space, I'm going to go ahead and add some glue to our clouds. I'll have to add a little bit more later because of all the finagling I did. But I'm going to stick that in there. It's going to work perfectly. It works out just fine. So there you go. It'll end up being 4 thick. She's a little bit more liquid glue, and we can attach down our clouds to that. And then I don't have any problem with anything falling over. This looks so good. And I love that it lights up. Now I can attach down the rest of the pieces, which would include that extra hot air balloon. That little small one looks like he's in the background, floating around back there. And then I've also got the little flag banner for our big balloon. We're going to attach that down also. We have our little mouse and our elephant that happen to be watching the little hot air balloons. And then we can add a little bit of glue to them and attach those down to the cloud. I think it's cute that they're just kind of sitting in the clouds watching. How adorable. Now I have to attach down our sentiments, so we're going to close this up, and we've got, like I said, it says flying by to say it's your birthday, so we'll glue those down as well. All right. And there you have it. All right, we are going to be regular speed now. So we can pop that up, hit the push button, and you see this really fun light inside the hot air balloon, like the flame that you see in a hot air balloon. I love how this turned out. I hope you enjoyed it too, and I hope it was easy to follow. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thanks for sticking around and watching the rest of the video and all the things that you guys do to keep me in production. I appreciate you all, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.